a pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool? Stable Duel. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, Stable Duel.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
And it's a great day to play today because it is opening day over at Keeneland. Keeneland is one of those Stable Duel tracks where you can always play games when you know there's racing at Keeneland. And today, helping us out to talk a little bit about the big weekend is one of the head honchos from Stable Duel. John Murphy joins myself, Matt DeSantis, and Barry Spears. John, I've had such a pleasure working with you guys over at Stable Duel for the last few years, but I haven't had the chance to talk to you all that much. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. And why don't you tell some of us out there a little bit about sort of why you got into Stable Duel and what some of the things you do over at Stable Duel?
Yeah, absolutely, and appreciate you guys having me on here. So, I had more of a financial background. I was an investment banker and hedge fund analyst and lived in New York for many years. And one of the partners, I just gotten into a racing syndicate like back in 2017, and one of the partners, a bloodstock agent in the syndicate, convinced me to move to Lexington. And I was kind of a wayward bachelor, and kind of unsure what I was going to do next with my life, and just kind of drifting around. And so it turned out to be a great move. And as I did, and as I moved there and just got to know people, I got kind of deeper and deeper into the sport, and put together a group for the initial capital for Stable Duel. We've kind of been on a journey ever since. It's not an easy journey. I tell you, horse racing is a very difficult sport to crack, but it's a fascinating challenge. A sport that people continue to say is dying or is dead, that the data says is not either of those things, that has, we would argue, the best underlying action of any betting you can do. And we're just trying to figure out how you engage people to really keep growing the sport.
And these weekends when there's big racing at Keeneland are a great way to combine like the premier racing, a great racetrack, and then what we see from other sports where there's a fantasy aspect built in. There's a daily fantasy aspect built in. There's this contest format built in. Everyone's got a fantasy team in football. Everyone is playing some extra DFS. People love to bet props nowadays. And that's what is so nice about Stable Duel, is it just is giving you a different entranceway into wagering. And it's not necessarily something that is going to take away. In fact, I know a lot of your data will say the opposite. Like, people who are playing Stable Duel are going to play the races pari-mutually a little bit more once you've looked at it. So it's this really good relationship that I think when most tracks start to realize the benefits, hopefully we can get all of these tracks on board, because when people are looking at these contests to play a Stable Duel game, they're going to put a few more bucks at the windows, and I think vice versa.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we kind of developed that intuition pretty early on when we were still playing the game in a testing environment. And, we played some midweek day at, some second-tier track. But obviously, you've handicapped the entire card, and you develop a connection to horses that you otherwise wouldn't wager. And so, we had kind of established that as one of the pillars of the game early on, that we're not going to cannibalize existing ADW business, that in fact will enhance it. And, even as I sit down, and I don't handicap whole cards for Stable Duel since I can't play, but as I sat down, like for today even, I can feel that, right? And I think also the beauty of anything that's kind of daily fantasy based is you're getting exposure to an entire day's worth of action with just one small wager.
Yep.
And that's what it's always been. That combined with kind of what we call the lotterization effect, right? Which is that, like, you have the opportunity to win $1 million. And in fact, there was a Super Bowl game on DraftKings a couple years ago, and for one shining moment, I was in first place. And, first prize was like $1.5 million. And so,
did you take a picture of that to screenshot that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I texted it to everybody.
Yeah.
And then I finished in 35,000th place and won $3. But the point is, like, you're trying to create that juice and that energy. And, I think the only frustrating thing for us, I've been an advocate almost since the beginning of, like, the fastest way to grow is to grow the pools, right? And it's pretty much intuitive and logical. And we took pretty aggressive steps to grow the pools. From what were initially 2,000, then to 5,000 to 10,000, we got up to 40,000. I think the challenge is that we were probably a little bit early, and you end up subsidizing those pools, to make the guarantees, and it's expensive. You can do that for some time because you can write it off as customer acquisition costs because you're drawing people in with big attractive pools, but you can't run a business that way forever. And so now I think we're in a place where we're kind of stepping back and saying, let's leverage existing strategic partners out there that might be intrigued by our product that are trying to grow their base, right? So big legal online gambling companies, overseas entities, people that naturally want other products that they can tuck in and build their customer retention. And they have much, much, much bigger customer bases than we have. So let's leverage that. We don't care so much about the economics that we sacrifice by going into joint ventures with them. But our belief is by de-risking ourselves financially and being able to offer pools that are 100,000 guaranteed, 200,000 guaranteed, we'll see much more traction for the product, and people will get a much more emotional response as to what it feels like to play, the game under those kind of stakes. And so that's kind of where we're focused right now is, let's put together the partnerships to allow us to host much bigger games. Let's not try to do it on our own. Let's not try to do customer acquisition on our own. And let's use the resources that are out there.
It'll be better for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's interesting, the other thing that we've really set out to do again and again is, make people more agnostic as to the tractor plan and the quality of the racing. And so, look, I joked with Pete a couple weeks ago that at times, given the content that we have to use, that it's almost like we're running a daily fantasy site for football, but we've got the CFL and the Arena League.
Yeah,
and it can be really hard. But if you can convince people to play tier 2 and tier 3 tracks on a Tuesday night, and then you see that follow-on effect, clearly there is something working there. We just have to do it in scale.
Absolutely. And there are, like I said, there are so many positives for people who play Stable Duel. And then what it does for you as a handicapper and a gambler too, it's sort of like turns you into a better handicapper and gambler, because you can't just be a chalk player all the way through. You can't build your lineup and pick the favorite in every single race. If that's the way you might play the races, that's fine, but you can't do that in Stable Duel. You're forced to look at a few races where you have to pick 8, 10, maybe a 15 or 20 to 1 shot and throw them in the mix. So you start maybe looking at a few other things. Maybe you start looking at ways to try to beat favorites in some races where you think everybody might throw a big price in. So it really does kind of help you as a handicapper too when you're playing these lineups. I think it'll help your gambling when you put together a pick 4 or pick 5. You'll realize you're probably throwing in a couple extra prices. I've seen it with myself, with Matt, with Barry, over the last couple of years, just, using more and more prices in the mix. And this is one thing that I've really loved, John, about you guys for the last few years. It's try something. Some things will work, some things don't. And if something's great, you keep doing it. If it doesn't work and it's not getting a great response, it's like, okay, you know what? We'll try something else. That didn't work. We had like cross promotional events before. Last week, we just saw Foxfield getting involved, and you were able to bring jump races and Stable Duel to steeplechase, which was a whole lot of fun. And you're always throwing out free games just to give people a chance to get some action, to get involved, maybe to get an idea what the game is about. And those free games, they're not giving you like bonus points. You actually win money in these free games too, and you can build the bankroll. So like today, if you want to get an idea of what the app is like, maybe you've never played, you've seen us talk about it, you can jump in and play at Santa Anita for free today.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you brought up the pick 4 and pick 5 too, because, for me, that's always my favorite way of wagering when I'm at the track in particular, but also just watching from home. And, I think part of our philosophy early on in game design was we want to recreate the energy and the excitement of a pick 4, pick 5, but without the binary nature of it, so that if, your horse loses, you're out of the bet. And, we dabbled in something, where I just put up my own money. This was like last year, where, we would put out a pick 4, pick 5 ticket simultaneously with a contest that we're running for Stable Duel, and say that, whoever wins or whoever's in the top 3 is going to share in the proceeds of this pick 4 and pick 5 ticket. Because where I'd like to see this go eventually is that we partner with existing ADWs or existing tracks with, sizable pick 4, pick 5 pools, and there's synergy between their entry in the Stable Duel contest that day and their pick 4, pick 5 entry. And so they can almost play the two simultaneously, benefit from the handicapping in both, but also to the extent that they lose the pick 4, pick 5, but have an otherwise perfect card, they're likely going to make money in Stable Duel even if they lose the pick 5. So, I think there's more to be done in that area. Then, the final area that we're really spending a lot of time, because we are seeing, a demographic that trends 20 years younger than a traditional horse racing audience. And I think a lot of that is just, it feels like a lower risk, lower stakes, easy to understand format. But we're actually working with a artificial intelligence based company with considerable experience in horse racing to develop essentially like a pick 'em algorithm. And if you guys play FanDuel often, that FanDuel has a guru, where, let's say it's a basketball contest, and, they'll show you 3-point guards and they'll say, this guy's hot right now. And you can click on them and see what the stats are for the last few games. Well, we want something that kind of breaks the friction of picking 10 horses, right? Because we see a lot of people that sign up for accounts. They feel completely overwhelmed. They have to handicap, pick 10 horses. They have no idea how to even get there. And what we want to do is break that friction so people feel like they can easily choose horses. But then on top of that, you have to develop a sense of self-efficacy in them that they understand why their picks won, right? So this horse won because of, a drop in class, or, going 2 turns instead of 1, or
So that way I know for next time, right?
Yeah. And as you develop that, I mean, you think about, another conversation we had internally, like you can lose money for, days straight wagering on horses, but that one time where you handicap a race, it plays out exactly the way you expect it to from a pace perspective and everything else. That satisfaction, it's like, that shot you hit on the 18th hole of a golf course where you've done nothing but spray it all over, but then you hit that one perfect shot, you want to come back. And so we want to create that feeling in novice players that, they saw how the algorithm worked. They understand that there's actually real patterns to how horses run, and that they can do it again, because as I said before, the underlying action of horse racing is so pure and so good. It's way better than any other sports action for wagering. You just have to get the format right.
John, one thing you were pointing out is the bigger the track, the bigger the racing, the more people that are going to get involved, the bigger the pool sizes are. And for the next month or so, Stable Duel will have a really nice schedule with a couple of the bigger racetracks, with Keeneland, who has been a real great partner for you, and also with Santa Anita. So for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays for the next month or so, leading into the Breeders' Cup, it'll be great to get these really high, top quality racing and big contests to play into. We're actually looking at the Stable Duel website right now at the contest schedule for the weekend. So anytime you want to plot out your weekend, you can go and check out the blog section and you'll be able to see the Stable Duel schedule. So we know Keeneland, Santa Anita, Gulfstream for Friday today, Keeneland, Santa Anita, Gulfstream for tomorrow. You'll have multiple options at Santa Anita and Keeneland today. You'll have multiple options at Keeneland for Saturday. And then same thing on Sunday. 2 different contests at Santa Anita, 2 different contests at Keeneland, and Golden Gate gets into the mix. So now we're starting to see for the next month, you'll be able to have some of that real top tier quality racing, which will probably help, because I think over the last few months, it's been about building the customer base in the early part of the week, right? With Assiniboia Downs, Monday Night Lights races, and with some of the early stuff in the week with Parks. And now hoping that we can kind of transition a lot of those players over to the bigger games on the weekends.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. October is a great month, and obviously it feeds right into Breeders' Cup at Keeneland. Going to be a really intriguing Breeders' Cup this year, so we're excited for the month ahead.
Okay, well, you can't play in any of these games, but we can take the horses that you give us and take advantage of you, and then use them in our lineups. So tell us a little bit about this weekend and maybe a couple horses that you might be looking to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't love today. I'm much more a fan of tomorrow.
Yeah, let's jump into tomorrow then. Yeah, let's
No. I'm gonna stick with today. I'm just giving a disclaimer.
Okay.
I don't love to bet 2-year-olds.
You're just covering your bases if these horses don't run well. That way we won't give you a hard time. Exactly.
That's right. Every disclaimer. So I'm going to start with a value play here. And this is in the 5th race. I'm going to do a couple of value plays because
Okay.
I think there are a couple clear favorites today. But in the 5th race, the 11 horse Jag Warrior. Now, Jag Warrior is by Shackelford, was a late foal, was born in May as a 3-year-old, trained by Dale Romans, was horrendous as a 2-year-old, like just did nothing in her form to show that she was going to do anything. And really that continued for the most part in the first part of the year, but you started to see this steady improvement. And interestingly, she was moving up in class in these main special weight races along the way as she was improving. Her last race was a Churchill in September, and she was, I believe, 29-1 that day.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a heavy favorite, Sunny River, which was like a Juddmonte filly, trained by Brad Cox, really impressive looking horse. And Jag Warrior just showed incredible heart in that race. If you go back and watch, the video, and you combine that with, I think the improving form, the fact that she was a late foal, and at 10-1, as it relates to kind of Stable Duel pricing, this looks like a really, really solid value to me.
Yeah. And so when we kind of talk it out Stable Duel wise, and we're thinking of horses and their morning lines and prices, we want to build your lineup and to put your lineup together. You're going to be filling a $50,000 salary cap with 10 horses. So you're thinking about 5,000 per race is the average where you have to hit. And so when you play a horse like Jag Warrior that only costs you $1,000 to use in your lineup, that gives you so much wiggle room in some of the other races. Now you can go into 2 other races and spend up on the heavier favorites just by using one Jag Warrior in a race like that. So, John, this is a horse who's peaking, who's stepping forward, and at a very nice price. You can really build your lineup nicely with a nice 10-1 shot like that in there today. So you said you had a couple prices for us. You have another one to look at on the card?
Yeah, this one's a little bit less of a price, and a little bit more crowded race. The 9th, which is the grade 1 for 2-year-olds, and I think there are 2 other really good horses in this field that will be tough to beat: Zagara and Fun and Feisty, the Ken McPeak. But I really like Raging Sea, extremely well bred, by Curlin out of a Stormcat mare. Chad Brown, a lot to like. Broke her maiden at Saratoga first time out and looked really impressive doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, now, like, these are the 2-year-olds I don't like to stick with for too long, because I feel like every Breeders' Cup we get to, Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies, and like there was an early 2-year-old that was great that just flames out.
Yep.
And a couple of years ago that was like Dennis's Moment and 8 Rings and horses like that you just get smoked by.
Last year it was the entire Breeders' Cup juvenile field.
Yeah, exactly. But Raging Sea, when I see a filly like this run as a 2-year-old that looks that impressive and that professional her first time out, and was really tested down the stretch of that race and responded like with just incredible heart, I liked everything I saw. And so now coming back for a second race, should see a lot of early speed. I like Jose Ortiz on her. At 6-1, I think this is another great value pick.
And this is exactly the average that you're looking for. 6-1 is 5,000 in your Stable Duel lineup. So you're looking for horses just like this all throughout the card. And in a wide open race where a lot of people will be spreading out, this is a nice horse because not everyone's going to have Raging Sea. This isn't going to be a horse that's heavily owned. Raging Sea, you won't have to spend up a whole heck of a lot. So now with those 2 plays, you would only be spending 6,000 out of your $50,000 allotted salary. You'd still have a lot left over for the other 8 horses you want to build in your Stable Duel lineup. And since John can't play, we can take advantage of those horses. And we definitely want to throw them in our pick 4s and pick 5s too, if you're playing, because those are the types of horses you love in a pick 4 or pick 5, a nice 5 or 6-1 shot like this one, or a 10-1 shot like the one earlier. John, It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. We haven't got the chance to chat all that much, just some back and forth here on social media, but we will be here every Friday. If you want to come pop in with us any of the next few weeks and share a couple plays or any of your thoughts on, the Keeneland races, we'd love to hear from you. Or if there's anything going on at Stable Duel that you want to come in and share with us and pump for the weekend, please just let us know. Open invite anytime you want to come back.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, guys, and keep doing the good work. We love your content.
That's John Murphy there from Stable Duel. Good luck today in your plays. Good luck opening weekend at Stable Duel, John. We'll be firing away and we'll be getting our lineups all set. Thanks so much, John, for hanging out with us there. That's John Murphy. It was very nice to check in with him as our friend Bree is getting closer and closer to her big day. So we wish the best for Bree, and we say hello to everyone out there checking in and hanging out with us on this awesome Friday morning. Matt DeSantis, the sniper, Barry Spears here. And fellas, this is a fun time because now we're in the month leading into Keeneland. We have we're in the month leading into Breeders' Cup at Keeneland, and we have Keeneland Racing. Santa Anita just opened up last week. So lots of opportunities, really great racing. How you doing this Friday, Matty?
Doing great. The weather here in Northern Virginia is beautiful. It's nice and crisp. Very excited for Keeneland to start. Feels like it's really the beginning of the fall finally. And and it's an exciting time in the Mid-Atlantic because not only do we have all these great races, next weekend we got Maryland Millions Day, which is a big racing day up here in the Mid-Atlantic at Laurel Park. So that's where I fell in love with a little filly by the name of Luna Bell last year. So you never know who you might find at your local track on those sorts of days.
Barry,
but yeah.
I wasn't sure if he was going for I fell in love with the stripper. She's
I hope he's
not
not doing that.
I thought that's where he was going for a second. It's like, Matt, early on Friday morning already? That's where I'm not going nowhere.
He's on all my social media. He should know that's a no-no.
I thought that's where we were going, but nonetheless, Barry, we missed you so much last week. You were like a lot of people around the country dealing with some very scary weather. How's everything going for you and the family this week?
Very, very blessed to have survived that with very little wrong. I was out of power for about 4 days, but very blessed. Everybody was safe. My neighborhood got kind of hit hard, but everything's getting back up to speed. But it's still a little crazy. Not all the flooding's gone. There's, we were kind of locked in for a day because all of the roads that go in every direction from me were locked in because of the flooding.
Jeez.
So we really couldn't go anywhere, even after a couple of days after, because everything, there was trees down everywhere.
You can't get in and out.
Yeah. It's really crazy because while it's happening, the storm comes through and you're like right next to it and you hear the wind all night and the power goes out and you really can hear it. But you really don't feel the effects of it until the day after.
A couple days.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what happened around here. We took a cruise around the neighborhood and there was trees down everywhere and water and people, like, cars on the side of the road. Then you see all the people bringing their furniture out, trying to save their furniture from getting, destroyed. And it's just a mess, but it's cleaning up slowly but surely. And hopefully, especially on the West Coast, I hope everybody gets made whole and we get those beaches back.
Well, we're happy to have you back, my friend, and we're very glad that you are safe and everyone was able to deal with it best as possible. We are going to do our best to try to send you to a few winners, and it's a fun weekend. This is where I think my favorite month now, and then again when we have Keeneland, Gulfstream, and Santa Anita for Stable Duel. I think those are some of my favorite time periods where we really have great contests, top level races, and that's going to happen today out at Keeneland, opening day Friday, and we have 2 contests you can get involved in, a $10 game, and then for our bigger players, there's a $50 game. Tomorrow, there are also 2 different options for you for $5 and then for $50. So let's jump right into the Friday card. Matt, I know you and me are going to be later in the card. Barry, where are you looking at for Friday for Keeneland?
4, 7, and 8. Races
okay,
4,
so
7, 8.
You start in race number 4. Talk to us about, I know, I just should circle the turf sprints. usually for Barry, because we
Got
know
it, baby.
if there's a turf sprint and maybe a vulnerable favorite, that's where Barry's going to attack. Talk to us about this fourth race a little later on the card today.
Yeah, it's the fourth race today. 5.5 furlongs on the turf. It's allowance non-winners of 3, so it's a pretty good horses that have
Mhm.
kind of stamped themselves as winners in a sense. It's a really wide open race from what I could tell. Um, it's one of those races where you have a lot of horses coming from all different places. You got horses that last race at Churchill, at Presque Isle, at Ellis. I mean, Kentucky Downs, Colonial, everywhere. But I ended up doing one of these things in this race where something just doesn't make sense, so it must be right,
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I ended up on number 7, Roboman. He's 15-1 on the line, and it's crazy to me. I don't really think this horse will actually be 15-1 when it's all said and done. Um, he's had some good races on the turf, and I just don't understand why they didn't bring this horse back off the layoff running in turf races. I mean, his 2 turf races, one in August 1st and then another on August 21st, were 2 really, really good efforts. This horse showed talent early on in his second start, breaking his maiden, winning by 8. And then he did that on the regular dirt, then went to the turf and ran 2 really good back-to-back races at odds on at 40 cents on the dollar, and then another at 80 cents on the dollar, which he lost by a head. Then he comes back, runs an allowance race, and then in 2 stakes on the dirt. But it just seems like this horse wants the turf. He's out of Vancouver. Um, I don't see why they didn't bring him back, but nevertheless, he's in this spot today. Big price. He's not going to be 15-1, but I would say he's going to be a pretty good price, maybe about 7-8-1.
It's a great stable duel play because if he gets bet in half, you get great value on that. And Joel jumping aboard, I like this one.
Yeah, that was
Robo
the other
Man,
thing.
right?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't ride for this outfit. It's very nondescript connections,
Mm-hmm.
and he lands here of all places.
Yep.
It's got to be an indication that this horse is probably heading in the right direction. Nice little workout on October 2nd. So that sealed it for me.
That is race number 4, a big price, 15-1, coming up a little later on for the Sniper. So that's race number 4. I'll dive into race number 6, where we have like a race like this. To me, just screams Keeneland, like just a wide open maiden special weight race like this, where you have like a bunch of first time starters or horses that don't have a whole lot of experience. You can make cases for just about everyone in this field. Great betting race. The horse who I like a little bit in here is the number 3, Mobster. So he's a 2-year-old son of Uncle Mo out of a dam named Meadow Breeze. So we can dive right in using the daily racing form DRF formulator past performances, and we can see that Meadow Breeze, his dam, she's pretty good. She won her debut, which I always love because we're looking at a first-time starter here. She won her debut by 9.5 lengths. She was a Grade 1 winner. She won the Grade 1 Matron back in 2006. She was a 4-time winner who earned $300,000, and she showed precocity winning first time out of the box. Now we look at what she's produced. So she's produced 6 foals to race, and out of those 6, 5 of them have won. The only one that didn't win was Sebenak, who actually finished in the money in 3 of the starts, even though they didn't win. Royal Copy is a winner who was second in the hopeful, in the Grade 1 hopeful by just a neck. How about this? Ingene won first time out. Provocation won first time out. And Duke of the City won second time out, showed a little precocity. Magic Star won first time out. 3 of them won their debut. Magic Star is a graded stakes winner. Like, all of these horses are pretty nice. They all have some ability, and they all seem like they have win early blood in there. So I'm looking at Mobster, and when I'm looking at a first-time starter like this, I want to go through the checklist. So, dam, 1, some class, Dam showed precocity. Check. Siblings, 5 winners. 3 won their debut. One of them's a graded stakes winner. So now we got some precocity there and, some class. Check on the Dam, check on the siblings. We want to go to Mark Cassie and we want to see how he's done with first-time starters. What I like is, you can click and see how he's done with first-time starters, and you can see where those first-time starters have run well. So over the last 5 years, this is a barn who hits at about 14% with first-time starters. 103 winners over the last 700 starts. And it's not, when you think of Cassie, maybe you think, okay, maybe they'll win a bunch of them at Woodbine. Well, that's not really the case at all. This is a barn that's won with first-time starters at Woodbine, at Kentucky, at Gulfstream, and at Churchill Downs within the last year. So they can win anywhere with first-time starters that they're capable. This one just hits a lot of the boxes for me that I'm going through on the checklist. Like, barn that's ready to win first time out and that's capable. Lots of little pedigree stuff that I like. And then like a really steady work tab. Feels like for Mobster, when you look at the work tab, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, all works in a row without skipping a beat from early May 10th, May 18th, May 25th. And so you miss the month, you come back in July, and that's when, you get everything rolling up and ramp back up. So we have like 8, 9 consecutive works for Mobster. Yeah, I know Z's Prince is one who I throw in some pick 4s too, but at 8-1, this horse only costs you 3,000 in your Stable Duel lineup. Mobster, for me, is definitely going to be in my Stable Duel lineups, definitely going to be in pick 5s as this one kicks off the late pick 5 there in race number 6. So that's the 6th race for me. Sniper, I know you said you have race number 7, right?
Absolutely.
So let's jump right next door to race number 7. Let's talk about the grade 2 Phoenix, who you're looking at in this dirt sprint for some of the horses that will be looking to maybe get into the Breeders' Cup sprint.
Yeah. This was actually a race that I thought the favorite Special Reserve might be a little bit vulnerable.
Yup.
Yeah.
Off the layoff like that, coming into it, this is a pretty tough spot. There's no slouches in here. You have a horse in Sir Alfred James who kind of takes his show on the road, runs everywhere, runs well, a lot of places. You got Baytown Bear who, he's 30-1, but hasn't really run all that bad. I mean, maybe 31 is a little bit far-fetched. And then Sibelius, who's kind of stepping up here, who shows a lot of speed that I think can contend with Special Reserve. And that brings me to my pick, number 3, Top Gunner.
Oh, I like this horse too. Yeah.
Falls into the perfect.
Make it a law, Professor. 3 times, baby.
Yeah,
this is
I didn't
my
give
top.
this one out. This was my top pick.
I was going to give this one out. This is my top pick in here. Barry, take it away, though. Tell us a little bit about Top Gunner.
I just think he falls right into the perfect trip. He's a little bit faster than Sir Alfred James and Necker Island. So any kind of situation where they're going to be up front, he could be close enough to the pace to get first run. And if they slow down, he'll obviously be in a better spot too.
Can he sit third? That would be perfect,
yes,
right?
That's it. He's got to sit behind Sibelius and Special Reserve. And
perfect.
that's really all he has to do.
Yep.
And if he's not good enough, he's not good enough, but he should be in that spot ready to pounce on these horses.
In that Churchill race, he was sitting in the spot that we wanted, and then he loomed up kind of ominously, and he was just a little bit flat. It was his first start in a couple months. If he's got a little more punch under him, you look at his races just a few months back at Oaklawn, they fit. That race at Churchill is not bad. He was right behind Necker Island also. I think he gets the trip in here. I really do. I like him quite a bit in this spot, Barry. He's the horse who I hope can trip out. And Matt, you were kind of feeling the same thing, right? Hoping we can sit maybe just behind them.
I think so. I mean, I think just sits the right pace or sits the right trip. And, the other thing is, if you look, Gino, this is something you talk about a lot. Just cross off the last 2 races. One put him on the bench, one brought him back from the bench. You look outside of that, at 10-1 for $1,000 in Stable Duel, this horse just finishes in the money all the time. I mean, this horse is super consistent. So maybe even if he doesn't get to Sibelius, let's say, who I think is kind of a logical potential choice at a shorter price, you're still going to get what, a second place for $1,000 in Stable
Right.
Duel. I mean, that's still like great value. So I just think Top Gunner was a very, very obvious Stable Duel play in this race. If especially as John pointed out, that maybe there's some chalk in some other races that you need to spend up on. I think this is one where you can go pretty inexpensive and get a really, really nice finish.
So we all feel like Top Gunner could be a really nice horse to use in your Stable Duel lineups. Maybe a nice pick 4, pick 5 type horse also in the Phoenix. Let's move to the 8th race. Matt, I know you said you have one in the Jessamine today, 2-year-old fillies on the turf.
Yeah. And this is a race that, it's an exciting race. There's a lot of great young talent in this particular field. And I think there's a lot of speed, which is why I really like the number 1 Sabalenka.
Yeah.
This is a horse that is 10-1 in the morning line. Is only going to cost you $1,000. And so again, like Top Gunner, just a really good value play. This is a horse that just has shown a great turn of foot both times out, finished just behind Knock Your Socks Off, who's actually a really big price. And
that was what I was going to say. First off.
Yeah.
Is that one of those ones that's like a typo or something?
Because I don't know, but I would use Knock Your Socks Off
absolutely,
at 30-1.
I was going to talk about that horse in a second too.
Yeah.
I mean, I we'll talk more about Sabalenka in a second because I just Knock Your Socks Off. I think they're both horses you want to use like in your pick 4. But Sabalenka has a big shot in here, and that will only cost you $1,000.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I think just the pace sets up because there's a lot of horses who are going to want to be out in front. I think Towhead, the 12, breaking from the far outside, is going to need to go, and going to try to save ground and cross and clear. I think you can look at the 9, Recognize as a horse that's going to go. I think you can look at the 8, Dulcia as a horse that might have to go. Yep. I think you can look at the 7, Bling, who's a horse I kind of like, but is also probably going to have to go, and so or be pretty forwardly placed. And so there's a lot of speed, and these are 2-year-old fillies stretching out to 1 mile and a 16th in most cases. So I absolutely am looking for a stone cold closer here, and that's Sabalenka on the rail, who should get a ground saving trip and has shown the ability to pass a lot of horses and have a nice turn of foot. And so for $1,000, I think this is a horse that's going to clean up, pick up the pieces, so to speak, on a race that should be defined by a lot of early pace. So that's where I went. But Gino, Knock Your Socks Off is a horse that I think you got to talk about at the morning line value there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
is he really 30-1 in
30-1
in Stable Duel and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
$50.
He's probably he's supposed to be 3-1, I think.
I mean, I don't know if it
has to be a typo.
This horse can't. I mean, there's no way she's going to be 30-1, whatever the reason is. And so, like, if you're playing Stable Duel, I looked at her in this race as a horse you have to use, just because even if she doesn't win or doesn't run well, like, she should not be that price based on if it's a typo or just based on her running. Like, her race at Kentucky last time out was on a yielding turf course. It was good. It was a really good race.
And that's a good race with a lot of good horses in it too.
Towhead was in the race that she was in. She was 3-1 and Towhead was 5-1 in that same race. And Pratt jumps aboard. She broke her maiden and she beat Sabalenka at Colonial. And the way the race shapes up, Matt, that you're talking about, having a lot of speed in here, she would absolutely benefit from that. So she's, after a slow start, she's at the back of the pack. She makes a huge 5-wide move all the way up, like to kind of challenge for the lead, and then flattens out a little bit. I mean, it was at Kentucky. It was a tough move to make. She has like some upside here because she's I think she's half to Bob and Jackie, who's pretty
nice
classy here too. So, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it was. Like, we see typos, we see wrong morning lines posted. I felt like I had to use this horse in this spot because of that.
Yes.
You kind of do. Yeah. I mean, it's just pretty wild that you're going to get that. But you have to also factor in that everybody else is.
A lot of other people will probably be doing the same thing. But you know what? If this is something
it gets you points, though, it's like,
you got to keep pace with everybody too, and this allows you and I just looked. 24% of stables are using knock your socks off right now, which is not a huge number. It's a big number, but it's not a huge number. It's not like,
No, I can see that.
80%, but 24, that's fine.
That's a good amount.
Yeah.
But I ended up on number 5, Blind Spot.
Okay.
I just think this horse is steadily improving. The switch to the turf should probably suit this horse pretty well. I mean, beat Stephanie's Charm last time on the synthetic after, kind of changing running styles, which that was really the key for me, is that this horse can be close to the lead or sit a little far back. Sabalenka was actually my second choice in this race, but there's not much form to go on. So usually in races like this, especially at Keeneland, you can kind of, open it up a little bit. The favorites don't look all that appealing. I mean, even knock your socks off. Let's just say this horse was 3-1 on the line. Doesn't look all that great. Like, oh man, we can't beat that horse. Or, there's a lot of horses here. I think the board is really going to tell a lot as far as who's getting bet, who's live, who isn't. Even though I hate to rely on the public for that sort of thing, it seems like it's going to give us a little bit of an indication on how this race is going to go.
That is race number 8, a little later on the card today. And right next door is the Grade 1 Darley Alcibiades, which is race number 9. Matt, I mean, I feel like we're on a Stable Duel live stream.
Yeah.
You got to sing, right?
Well, sing, that's a given. But we have to talk about our friend Take Charge Brianna here. I think we got a shout out for Bree with the 12. I think this horse has a shot in here. She's 15-1. And if you look at her progression, career debut, 6 furlongs, kind of slowish start. She's behind Kaling, who's in here. In her second start, Take Charge Brianna comes back. She finishes behind Chocolate Gelato, who goes on to win the Grade 1 Frisette in their next start. Now, career start number 3, Take Charge. I'm going to call her Take Charge Bree. I feel like I know her. I feel like we're on shorthand. We're comfortable enough with each other now. Take Charge Bree. She's the 2 in here. And she completely misses the break. She draws the inside going 7 furlongs at Saratoga, misses the break. Normally a horse like this is done, but she has some ability and she's really a closer. So I actually like the stretch out in distance for her. And I like the fact that she's not going from like 5 furlongs all the way to 1 mile and a 16th. We've seen her stretch out from 6 to 7, now to 1 mile and a 16th. She's still last. She's still not even in the picture here. And she's going to angle to the outside, and she's going to really, really get into a nice late stride. And what I love is that visually, when you're watching her here, you can see that she just looks like a horse that's going to be a little bit better going longer. Now they're going to hit the top of the lane. The bulk of the field is all bunched up, is all crowded up. Now here comes the 2. She's going to tip all the way to the outside with Flavian Pratt aboard. She moves from 10 lengths out of it. She's going to go like 5, 6, about as wide, as wide as possible. And then right here, once there's just some clearance for her, there's a couple taps and a couple reminders, she just storms home. She really kicks into stride and just like starts 2-by-1ing the gallops for the lengths that all these horses are making up. I just felt like this is, the start of her being better, going a little bit longer. And I mean, I'm looking at the rest of this field. It's a big field, so you're usually expecting speed in some of these big fields, but the 10 stretching out will be flashing some speed. Infinite Diamond showed speed last time out. Imagine the 7's going to be flashing some speed. The 5 will be forwardly placed in here. Raging Sea probably close up. You have Chop Chop and Wonder Wheel who will probably be close. I thought the 12, Take Charge Bree. Pratt.
I think that's the other thing I was going to mention. Pratt had choices in this race. He was on Kaling, he was on Raging Sea, and he was on Take Charge Brianna, and he I'm pretty sure, decided to stay on the 12.
Yeah.
And that should tell you a lot about what he thinks of this horse.
15 to 1 will only cost you 500 in your stable duel lineup. So, in back-to-back races, if you're using horses that are going to cost you 550, now all of a sudden you have a ton of money that you can spend up in the other races if you want to do something like that. Talk to us about this 9th race, Matt.
Yeah, I also attacked a pretty big price. I went after the number 2, Chop Chop. This is a horse that actually ran in that knock your socks off towhead race, won that race at Kentucky Downs last time out, and is making the transition from turf to dirt, which might sound a little skeptical, except for Brad Cox has just insane statistics in that space, winning at a 32% clip when transitioning from turf to dirt. So clearly he knows what he's doing in this space. I trust him for that. You get Joel Rosario hopping on board. Raylu had been on this horse at Kentucky Downs and Ellis Park. I just think this horse will sit a good trip. And you mentioned speed. I think that Chop Chop has demonstrated doesn't need to be on the lead. Will sit more of a stalking pace. Will sit a few lengths off and then make a move. Obviously has a little bit of that turn of foot from his time on the turf, and so has shown the ability to pass horses. 12 to 1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $750 in the Stable Duel. I just think there's a lot to like there, and I know I sound like a broken record sometimes, but I just tend to trust Brad Cox horses on big days a lot of times, and so this is
Nothing
one
wrong
where,
with that.
yeah, no, and if
He
you
wins.
can get, he wins, and if you get 12 to 1, like
Even better.
even better. And no, there are certain horses that we'll talk about tomorrow too, where it's just like you look at the connections. I'm thinking, and not to get too far ahead, but in the turf mile, a horse like Mason, who's like a Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt horse at 12 to 1 on the morning line there. It's like, well, when do you get that ever happen? And so sometimes you just have to take advantage of these big fields, because there isn't a 6 to 5 favorite and there isn't anybody that's overwhelming in this field. And so it is going to come down to trips. And one of the things that I'll finally mention, I think when we look at these 2-year-old races, whether on Friday or Saturday, while I'm always skeptical if there's a lot of horses that need the lead or clearly want to be on the lead. I do like horses that have tactical speed to get in a good position because, 2-year-old horses, if they start getting shuffled back 8th, 9th, 10th place, they're maybe in deep water and they don't know how to run from that spot before. So I like to see a horse like Chop Chop who has enough early speed to position himself well, but doesn't need to be, or herself well, but doesn't need to be on the lead.
Yeah, I ended up on in this race. I liked Infinite Diamond quite a bit. I liked her race stretching out, getting blinkers for the first time, second time blinkers this time. I think that horse is going to be tough.
That was the 8 Infinite Diamond, and we're talking Keeneland for Friday as we close out the Friday Keeneland card. Let's go right next door to the 10th race. There was just one I wanted to mention that I think could be a fun use. The 11 is really lightly raced, is on the upswing, and is 10 to 1 on the morning line. There is like no speed in this race. I think it'll probably end up being the 8 Fairchild, who's either close to or on the lead, but she's not even all that quick. If I would not be shocked if the 11 Soft Touch is right on the front in here. This is a horse who's trying to win 3 in a row, and she will only cost you $1,000 in your Stable Duel lineup at that 10 to 1 price. So I'll definitely be throwing her in to close out the Friday Keeneland card. Let's move to Santa Anita for Friday. Let's talk a little bit about the great race place. So, Matt, I know you have a couple at the later part of the card at Santa Anita. Barry, do you have Santa Anita for Friday?
Absolutely. Races
Okay.
6 and 9.
6 and 9. Okay, Barry, you talk to us about this 6th race a little bit, and then Matt, I'm gonna pop the camera off for about a second. I have one thing I want to do, but I don't want to stop the stream real quick. So, Matt, you and Barry talk about the Santa Anita races, and I will be immediately right back to join in with you. But let's talk about Santa Anita and let's talk about race number 6 for Friday.
Yeah, this race, it's 6th race is not the these horses aren't going to be burning up the track by any means. This is a claimer, 16,000 non-winners of 2, and
here we go.
it's just a lot of nonsense going on with a lot of these horses. But I zeroed in on a horse who I think might be lone speed, and it's number 5, Economical. Showed some speed back uh, in August 6th, at Del Mar. Almost went wire to wire, got caught at the wire by a head. Then they put the horse back in on September 4th. Didn't run a lick. Got claimed that day. Came back at Los Al. Ran a lot better. Got claimed again by Sean McCarthy, who has him this time. Um, I really can't see any other horses getting to the lead, and I think that has a huge advantage for Economical, who's 5-1 on the line. Not a huge price, but I still think has a really, really good shot to win this race today.
Yeah, that was a horse I liked too, Barry. So I definitely liked Economical. I think, Santa Anita today, there's some shorter fields. And so honestly, just getting a couple 5-1, 6-1s is sometimes
Right,
is
that's the
good as you're
good
going
way
to
to
get
go.
in some
Right.
instances. Yeah. So definitely liked Economical in this spot. So I actually had a play in the 7th race. Did you have one in the 7th or were you in the 9th?
Ninth, yeah.
Right. So in the 7th race, and we don't have to. Gino's got the screen there still in the 6th race, and that's okay. But the 7th race, just to let folks know, is a $63,000 allowance on the downhill turf, state bred fillies and mares. And the horse I ended up on was another 5-1 horse, actually, the number 6, Essential Business. This is a Peter Miller horse with Jose Valdivia aboard. And this horse goes against a couple of things that I typically like on the downhill turf course, which is that this horse has been running at like 5 furlongs. It is now stretching out to 6.5, which is not something I normally like. But here's the thing. This horse has been running against open competition, and it broke its maiden against open competition actually on dirt. And so it was running in maiden special weights, doing that. Granted, Sunland Park, kind of in the Southwest, but still running an open competition, then goes and runs on turf at Del Mar after after a little bit of a layoff in a state bred restricted race. Runs fine, finishes 5th, but only about a length back. Then comes back and actually runs against the boys last time out in a state restricted race. But like I said, against the boys, and finishes 4th again, another length out. But you see that progression of Beyer speed figures from 71 to 76. This horse clearly perked up once it hit the turf. I think at 5-1, again, a little bit of value on a day where it might be a little tough to find value in different spots at Santa Anita. But that's where I ultimately went on the downhill turf. But hey, last weekend I was like 0 for the world on the downhill turf. So I don't know. Normally I'm pretty good there, but last weekend, man, was rough on the downhill turf. Tango didn't run nearly as well as I'd hoped, but oh well. Yeah, Barry, you also are in the 9th race. So why don't you tell the folks where we're going in the 9th? Because I'm also in the 9th race. So I'm interested
Okay.
if we have some overlap.
Uh-oh. We could be on the same horse.
We could
Yeah,
be.
this is a starter allowance, $50,000 for horses that haven't started or have started for 50,000 or less, or have never won 3 races. I ended up on number 7, Barsabas.
Yes.
I'm gonna put this out there. I think this horse is probably gonna be second choice, if not favored.
Yeah.
He kind of fell off form a little bit early part of the year, like in April or May, before they laid him off. It was avoided claim that day, where he kind of ran one of his worst races, to be honest, and then came back from that and ran well. Drops into this spot, and I think is just better than these horses. 6-1 on the line is perfect for Stable Duel because you don't have to spend up a whole lot, and you're getting a horse that's probably, I think, probably going to be second choice if not favored, because Ouija doesn't look as good on paper as Barsabas, but I still think Barsabas was superior anyway. So that's who I ended up on. It's just too bad that this horse is probably going to get bet down, so it's going to kind of screw up the exotics a little bit. But in a Stable Duel situation, this is a really good horse.
Yeah, no, I was on the same horse. I felt like this is one of those where my eyes lit up from a Stable Duel standpoint when I saw the morning line. I was like, oh, 6-1 on this horse. All right, I'll take that all day because, like you, I think this horse will end up probably being the top choice in this race. I wouldn't be surprised if this horse's price plummets pretty significantly from the morning line. You mentioned, honestly, dropping in class, kept very good company the last couple of times out, and and certainly it showed a lot at the Oceanside, and a really nice
At
effort there
55-1, no
at
less.
at a huge price. And, obviously was outclassed at the Del Mar Derby. And while it finished last, it wasn't like, it finished 6 lengths back.
It
So
was
it wasn't as if,
competitive,
it was competitive. And so
but
that
too
was,
far.
yeah,
A mile and eighth was too far for that
yeah,
horse, and I think they knew
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. And, and what's interesting is that race you had Slow Down Andy, who, has actually come back and become a pretty nice horse, who won that race who won that race that day on the turf. But, I just saw Barsabas as also a very logical choice in this particular race. I always like the works on the turf surface. And so, I just think there's a lot to like there with Ryan Hansen, who who's off to a good start at the Santa Anita meet, I should say. He's had 3 starters and all 3 have finished in the exacta. So that's promising.
Yeah.
It's a small sample size, but still, that's not a bad thing. So,
Fellas,
I mean-
thanks so much. Hated to have to dump out. I was having a router issue, and I just wanted to try to not have our stream stop. Like if I pull the router out or something. So I think I got it figured out, but I'm going to keep my camera off just in case. So that way it'll help with the bandwidth a little bit as we finish up here. But thanks for holding down the fort and helping out as we continue along at Santa Anita for Friday. So where are we headed?
So we actually finished up our Santa Anita picks, so
okay.
we can head to Saturday. We can turn the page.
Yeah, let's turn the page and go to Saturday for Keeneland. Let's pull up Keeneland Saturday on a big Saturday for opening weekend at Keeneland. So Barry, where are you looking for Saturday at Keeneland?
7 and 10.
Races 7 and 10. And Matt, for Keeneland, you are...
I am all the fuck over the place. I'm sorry. I should have said that. I am in every damn race. No, I'm in 6, 9, 10, 11. So that's I'm giving out half your damn your Stable Duel. So yeah.
Okay. So let's start in race number 6. Matt, you and the sniper take it away in race number 6. Let's start with you. I'll pull up the PPs.
Yeah. So race 6, and that's good. You're pulling up the PPs because of course my DRF is frozen. So, there we go. Now it's working again. So the 6, if I'm not mistaken, is the Woodford. Is that right, Barry? Are you looking at the PPs now? Because like I said, mine's frozen. So yes, it is the Woodford. So it's the Golden Pal race. Yes. So Golden Pal. Let's talk about him. And
please, let's do, because I've been butting heads with my buddy Chuck Simon on this horse. So I'd like to hear your take.
I was not impressed by that Troy. I mean, part of it, now you missed the break, but Ascot, I'm always willing to draw a line through, and so I'm willing to make an excuse there. This horse has been unbeatable basically here in the United States, and when it travels abroad it gets beat. But I think this is an interesting race from a pace scenario, because I think Artemis City Limits is a legitimate horse that can challenge Golden Pal on the front end. And coming out of that Troy, I think Golden Pal looked very vincible, looked very beatable, and therefore, I really like the 9 in this particular race, Catamosto, which is the Mark Casse horse that used to be in the Joseph O'Brien barn. This is a horse that's 10-1 on the morning line, and this is a horse that is making its second start in North America. I always like that angle. Usually it takes a horse or maybe a race or two to get acclimated to the new footing, the new riding, just the new style of race in North America. So I generally like that second start in North America. Like I said, Catamosto is also a horse that should sit right behind that early speed. Not fast enough to contend with Artemis City Limits and Golden Pal, but as that outside post position, should be able to drop in the right spot all kind of like Top Gunner. All I want him to do is sit behind the 2 early speed horses and get the right trip. And I wonder if Golden Pal just gets worn out as a result of Artemis City Limits putting pressure on Golden Pal. But listen, people have wasted a lot of money and burned a lot of money trying to beat Golden Pal. So I'm interested. What's your thoughts on this horse in this race, and kind of what's Chuck's thoughts as well? Because I do value his opinion as well.
He has the same stance that you do.
Okay, that's interesting.
That he did not like that Troy race. He tells me Golden Pal is done.
I don't think he's not Speaker's Corner done, but he might.
See, and I have the opposite. I think that race was not very good, like you stated.
Yeah.
But I think he bounces back, especially at I kind of consider Keeneland his home turf.
Yeah.
So that's why I didn't even attempt to kind of go against him in this spot. Although I do like Gear Jockey a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I just didn't think that even a Golden Pal that was okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Back in August, I still think he's going to run better than that today.
So this is why
tomorrow.
It's a good point, Barry, and I think that from a stables standpoint, this is where I think the difference between Stable Duel and maybe how you play a pick sequence or how you play even a general win bet might differ. And it's also why I went with a horse like Kotomosto that's 10-1. I would never want to use a horse in Stable Duel against Golden Pal that's like 5-1 or 6-1. Like,
right, spending up too much.
Yeah, you're spending exactly, because if Golden Pal wins, then you look like an idiot because now you got a second or third place horse at 5-1, and that's not a great ROI. But if Kotomosto finishes second, like he did first time out, that's fine. Like, again, kind of like Top Gunner. Like, hey, that's fine. I'll gladly take second for a 10-1 horse in Stable Duel. So I kind of trying to have my cake and eat it too, maybe a little bit in this race. With if Golden Pal wins, so be it. I hopefully I can get right there underneath with Kotomosto. But if the Speed Duel ends up, if Artemis City Limit softens up Golden Pal, Kotomosto might be able to take advantage. But yeah, I think Golden Pal is definitely returning to his home turf. So we'll have to see. But now, Barry, where are you going in the next? You're in the 7th, is that right?
7th and 10th.
Okay. So who do you got in the 7th?
This is the Thoroughbred Club of America, Grade 2, 6 furlongs. Such a tough race. Everybody's in really, really, really good form, and I think this race is going to be kind of a throwdown where you get Happy Soul and Joyful Cadence. Slammed even has a lot of speed.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to burn it up on the front end. Palm Cottage has a lot of speed, and that brought me to my pick, which is Caribbean Caper. I think this horse sits a great trip, second off the layoff. He probably needed that race at Colonial, shipped over. Nice bullet work on October 1st. And all systems go. This is almost like that other one we talked about earlier with Top Gunner. I think this horse just falls into a perfect trip. I mean, normally I would like a horse like Sconson here, but I don't think that horse, for whatever reason, likes Keeneland. And I think that Caribbean Caper is just going to fall into the perfect trip and hopefully win this.
Yeah, the Caribbean Caper I think makes a lot of sense. That was a long layoff. I mean, that was a year, nearly a year layoff. So you're absolutely right. Needed one. And what was interesting was still attracted a ton of money.
Right, he was favored.
He was favored coming off that long layoff, which understandably you're dropping in a Colonial against, but to that point I think it was 5 for 5 undefeated. So understandable that he would attract that much money, but well,
it seems like this race was the goal all along.
Yeah,
anyway.
It does seem like it. Yeah.
So I mean, this was what they were pointing for. No matter what this horse did in Colonial, they were coming here. And he ripped off 5 straight.
Yeah,
before that last one, and he's tough.
Yeah, you're right. This is a banger of a race. I mean, when I was looking through this one, it was just, these are like really good horses. And more importantly, these are horses that all just consistently finish in the money. That was one thing I was really impressed by. I was like trying to find horses that have like hiccups every once in a while and things like that. It's like, a lot of these
Not
horses
many
don't
of
have
them.
it.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They don't really have hiccups. Like they
I mean,
all
look at
finish.
Joyful Cadence, who's 10-1 on the line.
Right.
He's 11 for 13 in the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And 11 for 11 at the distance. And so at 6 furlongs. So, yeah, no. And Slammed is an interesting horse that, ran in the Southwest at Zia Park, Sunland, goes to Del Mar, doesn't really get any respect and blows the barn doors off of an optional claimer, and then runs a really close second to Edgeway. I mean, that horse has a lot of talent and probably will get disrespected at the windows. I wouldn't be surprised if Slammed actually floats up a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Just because people are going to look at that West Coast turf form and Southwest turf form and go, that's one of the things, people in Kentucky can be snooty about things from Kentucky. That sort of thing.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. And New Yorkers are the same way.
Fellas, I actually thought the 6 Liberty MD even, at a big price in here was a horse that we may be able to throw in. I appreciate, as some of you who are listening can tell, I'm having some technical difficulties today, but what's great is that it's nice when you have friends and a great crew like I have right here who can help pick me up a little bit when things are have been a little bit off on my end. So as long as we can get you all some great information, that's the most important thing to me as we continue along.
Feeling good, Gino?
Through Saturday.
You look like a little small circle there.
I was going to say.
I can't see your face.
I look a little pale, don't I? I got like a little
gray.
Yeah, a little Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's in Halloween time right now. As what I will say though, as we have a few more, let's today just cut a little short. Let's finish up at Keeneland. Just that way, I don't want to keep going on if something weird will happen with the stream and it'll cut out. But we were able to get you Keeneland Friday, Santa Anita Friday. Let's finish up with a couple more at Keeneland for Saturday, and then we'll just cut a little bit shorter today. So let's head into race number 8, fellas. It's the First Lady, and this is a race that's kind of a hard one in Stable Duel map because it's a small field. But I think in a contentious race like this, if I'm playing this race, I think I probably have to give a horse like Princess Grace a look just because she's so competitive. Maybe she doesn't win, but at 6-1, if I'm not having to spend up at 5-2 or 3-1 like some of the other rivals in here, I think she might be the play in this race.
Right. I mean, I think that's always the challenge with the 3 Chads, right? Like when the Chads run against each other, you're like,
that's what's killing me here because it's like the horse that I kind of like would be in Italian.
Right.
But, what are they going to do with technical analysis? It's the same barn. They don't want to run over each other clearly.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what do you do? That's why I kind of stay away from races like this in general.
Yeah. No, this is a tough one, but I think if you are going to play something, Princess Grace makes a lot of sense. I mean, the 3 Chad horses are going to cost you $9,800, $8,500, and $8,000 respectively. Regal Glory, technical analysis in Italian. So,
Vigilante's Way is in razor sharp form coming from Monmouth. I mean, I wouldn't discount that horse at all in this race.
Yeah. And that's going to be I think the second least expensive horse in the race at only $750 on the Stable Duel, 12-1. You're right. Came off a win in the Violet and keeps Paco aboard. And Paco's been riding this horse well. I mean, last 4 times out, 2 seconds, a third, and a win. So you're right about the strong form of Vigilante's Way in this one. So it's funny. I've talked to a couple other people who also like in Italian here. I think that effort in the Diana was just so overwhelming. Set the track record at Saratoga, and we'll see. I mean, now actually cutting back a little bit in distance in this race. So we shall see.
Well, let's get to the breeders, Matt. What do you have any strong opinion in the breeders' futurity race number 9, grade 1 event, wide open race?
Yeah, it is a wide open race. And I think speaking of that, if I were just one piece of advice and I'll give you a play, I would pay a lot of attention to the 15 also eligible horse, which is the other Baffert, essentially. That is, I think, a potentially very, very good horse. This 5-1 on the morning line. Don't know if he draws in, and I typically stay away from giving out AEs, but just one to keep your eye on. But the horse I'll give out is the 10. Lost Ark. This is the Todd Pletcher horse, jockeyed by Flavian Pratt at 6-1 on the morning line. This horse is 2 for 2 winning, stretched out to a mile last time, has won its 2 combined victories by 13 lengths. You saw a progression of buyer speed figures last time out. You also saw, Barry talked about it on another horse earlier, a difference in the running line, sitting more mid-pack and then making a run, doesn't need to lead, has some of the best late speed figures in the field. There's, again, going to be a lot of speed in this race, I have a feeling. A lot of these horses are stretching out to over a mile for the first time. Just love the combination, love Todd and Flavian together in this spot. Think this is a really good horse. And this is a horse that beat Major Dude, who came back, granted, on the turf, but just won a Breeders' Cup win in your end race last time out. So beat some good competition there in this last effort. So I'm on the 10, Lost Ark in the futurity. Barry, do you have a pick on this one?
I kind of didn't want to put this one out there, but I kind of like the 3
Keep it for yourself.
I know. Yeah, honed. I like that
yeah.
horse's race. I mean,
Yeah.
really came into his own and stepped up last time, even though he was kind of green. I'm not sure this horse actually really wants to go this far, but there's worse opinions because, the speed and the pace scenario in this race, kind of sticks out, and this one can kind of pick up pieces.
Yeah, it's going to have the same trip as the Iroquois, essentially.
Right.
You just come running late, and at 12-1, that's a good play for only $750.
Yeah, well, my theory is I like that horse that finished third in that race, Jace's Road, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think that horse is really, really good. This one was 54-1 that day, and kind of picked up the pieces. Obviously, not going to be 54-1 today, or tomorrow. I still think this horse has some run.
Very good. All right. Well, want to head to the 10th race and then
let's finish up. Let's finish up in the turf miles. And again, sorry folks, I've been kind of popping in and out. I had some internet issues this morning, and my good friends Matt and Barry were able to hold down the fort for me as I've been trying to deal with some of that. But in this 10th race, guys, I think there's a lot of speed in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think so? Yeah.
I mean,
just a little.
And doesn't it open up for a horse like
Ivar?
A horse like Ivar, or even a horse like, the 12 set piece, who what set piece is going to do. The outside won't really hurt him. He's going to drop way out of it and just make his one late run. I mean, he was favored.
That's my worry, is going to be too far back.
And that's valid, right? But this is the type of race where he could get the dream trip with Joel aboard. They could come flying late. I think you want to throw him into your pick 4s and pick 5s at least. And in Stable Duel, what I like is that he should be passing a bunch of horses late. And at 15-1, he's only going to cost you $500. He's my Stable Duel play in the 10th. Barry, talk to us about how you're looking at this race.
Well, before I do that, I'll just say this about set piece. I would never take under 10-1 on this horse.
Completely agree. This finally feels like the day. Like, look at his prices, and then now look at today. This is finally like a jump-in point for me.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any time to get value on this horse, it's going to be on Saturday. But I just couldn't take too short of a price just because of the running style. You want to get fair value on a horse like that who kind of comes from out of it. But I ended up on Ivar. I think this horse has a bunch of races to go to that would win this race in particular. He could be close up. He can be farther back. Talmo will have him where he pleases. This horse is he doesn't do much wrong. And it's weird because he doesn't really get bet that often.
Well, his only real issue is that he doesn't make it.
He doesn't make it to the races often,
and then you sort of forget about him, right? He sort of is like out of sight, out of mind. Then he shows back up, and people are always like, okay, we'll give him a race or two, and then he usually just outruns his odds every time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping happens. I mean, I think he's going to be able to be wherever he wants. I had to pass on our buddy Santon because I think that horse just ran way too good last time, and the pace scenario doesn't really favor his running style, so I was kind of against him to on Saturday. But Ivar to me looks like he's going to get the trip.
I agree. I'm with Barry on Ivar. I'm also with Barry. Sadly, fading our boy Santon. Get that Santon money. We got that Santon money, and now you're not going to get money on him anymore. But
Right.
The other thing is, the thing to point out about Santon, as much as I love him, his 2 grade ones are on that Churchill turf. Which do we even want to call it turf? I mean, David Aragona jokingly calls it turf, and that's a concern because you look at him, how he's run on some other surfaces against similar competition, and he didn't get it done at the fairgrounds, he didn't get it done at Del Mar, so I'm just curious how he runs on a surface that's not the kind of spray painted green cement that they have at Churchill Downs right now. And so that was my concern there. Ivar, totally agree to everything Barry says. I think he gets the trip set piece. If you need to save up more money in your stable, again, makes a lot of sense. I also think the horse Mason, I mentioned him earlier, the 5 horse. Again, this is a horse that's never finished out of the money at a mile. You get Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt at 12-1 on the morning line, $750. I mean, I know this horse will be a little closer to the front end, but this horse is really good as well. So certainly hasn't done anything wrong. Maybe you could say burned a little bit of money in that first Maker's Mark mile, but it comes back, wins 2 races in a row, finishes a close third in the 4-star Dave DaCosta Creed and Regal Glory. And so I don't know. I think there's some value in the 5 as well if you're looking in a different direction. But I got Ivar, which feels like I'm stealing thunder from Gino because, Gino, you love Ivar. You've had this horse on a few occasions.
I have, and he should get a great trip in here, too. I agree. I think he's a horse who fits very well coming from off the pace with the way this race shapes up. And what's nice is he does have the race under his belt now recently. Like, he does have that recent prep, so he could be ready to fire a big one. Sitting on a big one on a big racing weekend. We will be here with you each and every Friday, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Barry Spears, Matt DeSantis, and myself. It's the No Chalk Zone. We only dish out 5-1 and above, and we'll be talking Keeneland and Santa Anita for the next month or so leading into the Breeders' Cup. Matt, thank you so much for helping out today with some of my technical difficulties. Barry, buddy, so nice to see that things are going well for you guys over there. We were worried about you last week. We're happy everyone is safe and sound. And thank you to everyone for checking in and hanging out with us on this Friday morning. Let's see if we have enough bandwidth.
I like your new haircut.
Oh, I know.
I'm
nice and tight. I'm nice and svelte right now.
Aerodynamic.
Exactly. Let's see if next week maybe I look a little different. We'll see if I can change my appearance between now and then. And let's find out if we have enough connection to say goodbye to Joey Cleveland.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge.